Can you hear me? All right, perfect.
Something here that needs to be-
Apologies for the technical difficulties. So as I was mentioning, we have a really great panel from with different perspectives, focusing on automation of visual content. So we have the perspective of established media and technology organizations with NBC and Adobe, the perspective of emerging startups such as Wibbitz and GIPHY, and then of course the perspective of academia. So we'll be structuring this discussion in three key parts. So the first, I really want to explore the unique ways that your view of the world in your industry is looking at AI in visual automation. Then we'll open up the discussion a little more broadly to focus on challenges and opportunities for visual content, and then we'll have about 8 minutes for Q&A. So I would actually, before going to questions, ask you to briefly introduce yourselves by starting to share with us the last piece of media that you consumed that has been visually automated. And then if you can expand a little bit on your areas of focus and what your organizations are working on.
Okay. Hi, I'm Bill Beckett. I work for NBCUniversal MediaLabs. What I'm focused on is automating the creation of media and derivative content using ML techniques. So the last piece of automated content I looked at was a headline video that my system generated yesterday. So that was the last piece.
I'm Lydia Chilton. I'm a professor at Columbia in the computer science department. And my job is to take a message that you want to convey, like get a flu shot or wash your hands, and create an image that goes along with that message that'll draw people in. So what I try to do is blend two concepts together. So you're like, oh, that's weird, and then your brain thinks about it for another half second, and that really helps the message get across, rather than just be yet another time someone told you to wash your hands. And we find in this process that ML and AI can get you about 80% of the way there, but you want a human in the loop to just make sure that this really has the right intent. And it's like, what's going right, what's going wrong? Let's drop what's going wrong and amplify what's going well. So I wanted to do fully automated things, but now I end up doing these semi-automated things. So really then, how do you get humans and computers to work together? So that's my challenge. And similarly, the last one of these I looked at was my how to get people to wash their hands ad.
What was the image for that?
So it's conveying that, like, wash your hands. It's really the smart thing to do. So it's like a soap pump blended with a volumetric flask.
Hi, you can hear me? I'm Brenda Milis, and I'm the head of creative services and visual trends at Adobe, specifically for Adobe Stock. I work both externally and internally. I work with enterprise clients to help them understand all the parts of Adobe Stock collections, as well as get their feedback as to content gaps, things they want to see more of that they don't see generally in the stock industry. I also take that information back and help grow the stock collection. I also spearhead the visual trends forecast, which by forecasting visual trends, I strategically help clients and photographers and contributors strategically go into the future, knowing where interest is scaling around specific visual topics and styles. It's kind of hard for me to say. I think the last automated imagery I would have seen would be today. I'm deeply embedded with Adobe Sensei, which is Adobe's version of AI. It's completely woven throughout the Creative Cloud so that there's a 360 workflow from start to finish, and it helps produce very efficient, on-brand, and robust search results. So that's a big part of my day. Yeah.
Hello.
Okay. Got it?
Really won't work like that. Hi, I'm Hilary. I am the VP of Marketing at Wibbitz. Wibbitz, for those of you who don't know, is a platform that helps you create videos using automation. So it simplifies the production process, makes it really, really fast, very easy to create a high-quality video. I've been at Wibbitz over 3 years now, since we started working with publishers and started introducing this very interesting technology. Is this working? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so I've really seen how the response has been over the past few years, from sort of turning away very, very quickly to now embracing this. And the way that we see our impact is how we're helping the media industry to better understand a technology like ours and grow with them together. The last automated piece of visual content that I watched was something that will be on our new website tomorrow. I've been watching many, many videos from many of our partners. So yeah, it was, I think, from Bloomberg, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm Bjorn Roche. I'm on the engineering team at GIPHY. My specific team is the content engineering team, and we are what I usually the way I usually describe it is I say that we're responsible for the GIFs themselves. So GIFs, if you're not familiar with them, they're basically short little movies without sound. And so we use automation throughout the process. We get our GIFs from a variety of sources. One example is a partner might send us a very long video, and we, I think about a year ago, we did the entire Gilmore Girls, for example. And so you can go to our site now and literally watch every episode of the Gilmore Girls in these little 6-second chunks. And so that's not specifically the Gilmore Girls, but that's probably the last automated video I saw, if that counts, just the automatic cutting. So that's one of the tools we use for creation. And then once the content is ingested into our system, we have to make it searchable, and we use AI for that. And a lot of automation tools. And we also still use a lot of human tools. People still look at a tremendous number of the GIFs and manually tag them for searching. There's a huge amount of manual work that goes into it. We have about 60 million GIFs in our catalog. On average, they have about 1 tag each, and most of those were put there by a person. So there's just a lot. 60 million tags, I guess, is what that means. And so my team is responsible for ingesting that and making it available to search, so that when somebody's using a messaging app or Facebook or one of our other integrations, they can type happy and find 20 different ways of expressing happy with a short image or a short video.
Excellent. So Bill and Brenda, I want to go back to you. So we've seen that the technological transformation is in full blown throughout the media and technology industry. What I'm really interested in exploring is beyond the technological change. What's the cultural change within your organizations when suddenly you're saying that the machines are doing part of the work, and what are the reactions that you are getting, and how are you navigating this transformation?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I started at NBC, I went into a control room, and I was introduced as, this is a person from Area 51, and he's here to take your job. So that was kind of the level set that I had as an introduction. So there is some challenges in terms of when you're doing automated clipping, where there are people who are doing clipping, where you're doing automated combinations and creating stories that other people are creating. So a lot of that work is being done, and it has been automated. There are challenges, and I think one of the biggest problems is there's some misconceptions that the machines are taking over, that they're taking over the jobs, that they're able to tell stories. The things that we're working on are able to do some interesting things that make people more productive, but generally do not take over the work that they're doing. But there is still some perceptual problems. Yeah. I was told, I went into an edit bay with a producer and an editor, and I was working on, so I wanted to understand how they created these videos, which was my ask. I said, I'd like to understand how the producer and the editor create videos, just essentially from my own understanding. Unfortunately, the way that that was turned around was that there's going to be two people with you in the edit bay, and they're going to learn how you do the editing, and they're going to create a robot that will create the same exact edits for the rest of the videos that you have to do. So it was both sort of wrong and very close to what they were doing near time. So I walk up and down this hallway where the edit bays are very frequently, and no one pays any attention to me. I knew there was trouble when there was actually people watching me walk down the hallway. I said, ooh, there's a problem. So we ended up sort of explaining what we were doing and what we're trying to accomplish by being together with them so that we could understand how their workflow worked was the most important thing. And the other important thing was to understand how we might develop tools that would help them in the work that they're doing rather than replace them. And after that conversation, things went really well. But there was some misconceptions that I think do exist and cause a degree of fear.
And so you're saying that one way of mitigating the risk of misconception is through effective communication of the goals. And I'm curious how you're communicating at Adobe.
I mean, at Adobe, I'm lucky because at Adobe, I'm part of the Creative Cloud. So the Creative Cloud at Adobe is 100% committed to supporting and helping improve creative projects and creative process. I work for Adobe Stock, and that is part of the Creative Cloud. Adobe is very clear as a company and as a culture in messaging constantly that artificial intelligence, what we call sensei, is there to support the creative. To be great as a creative, you need your own creativity. You need content, that's stock, and you need technology, and that's the apps and that's Sensei. And I actually sometimes call AI automated intern, because how we view it is at Adobe, how it works for us and for all creatives is that it supports you. It does the grunt work, the menial tasks that are repetitive and really take up your time and don't take advantage of your creative skills, your creative expertise. So it really is there to do the grunt work. And I think that's, again, messaged very clearly at Adobe. And so we message that very clearly to the people who work in the apps, the people who work with stock, just saying, look, this is going to make your photo search better. It's going to go faster. And you're going to find the results, the pictures that you want much more effectively. That's done through visual search. So you can find a picture on Google, just drag it into the website, and Adobe Sensei will generate similar pictures that you can actually legally license. So that's one thing. It also generates filters that will find robust search results that would be very hard to keyword in, like if you want everything in focus or if you want just a portrait with shallow depth of field. So types of searches that you would say to yourself, what words would I even use to search for this? So it works for people who are visually oriented rather than writers, I would say. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I would like to also jump into the perspective of the startups. How are you communicating what your tools do, and have you found any of this tension that our industry colleagues are expressing?
You have to be really careful in how you introduce your product when you're talking about automation and AI. You're always going to get the question, is this replacing my job? Is this replacing jobs on my team? I think that the two things you have to think about are education and experience too. So educating people of the fact of all of the things that you guys touched on is that this is not replacing your job, it's really just making it better. And then if you can get those people to actually try and use and have a strong and positive experience, then they get it, because that's the point of using technologies like this. It's to make the experience better, it's to make the quality of the output better. So I think that's a huge thing too, just making sure that the people are getting the opportunity to have that experience to understand better.
That's great.
So at GIPHY we have GIPHY's a small company, and we have this culture it's very hard to describe, but this morning they rearranged all the seating randomly just to have us, just because. And I think that says a lot about the company. And so what that means is that, I, as the, engineer and product person, really understands very well how the tools are being used in-house. The tools that are being used we also have web tools and so on that anybody can use, but the in-house tools, it's very easy for me to Slack someone and say, hey, would it be useful to have a tool that automatically remove the background or not? Because that's something I could hack together in an hour, and have that conversation. And there's no fear because I'm offering to take something away from them.
Exactly.
And so in our environment, technology is really something that people are really excited about and wanting to use more. And it comes in both sides too. Sometimes somebody on business development will come to me and say, hey, here's a tool for image segmentation. How can we use that? Because somebody reached out to us with that. And then so understanding all the stakeholders is relatively easy. Nobody's afraid of losing their job, and people really embrace automation. So for us, that sort of creation and automation is usually very exciting. Where we run into problems is when these things sort of get too smart and don't work.
How does that work, though? Too smart and don't work?
Quote, too smart.
Oh.
So, if we have our AI system that tags content, for example, just recently took a flag from a Turkish flag and came up under a search for Cyprus flag, which is not just inaccurate, but if you're a citizen of Cyprus looking for your flag, that is really not what you want. Yeah. And so I don't, we don't know how that came up. That's just AI being AI, and sometimes you can't figure it out. So we do run into those kinds of issues where we still have to be very high touch, and people's nerves about using too much AI are justified. You don't want AI to completely take over the whole process.
And Lydia, what's the role of academia in terms of developing best practices in research, in terms of addressing some of these concerns of AI?
So I actually sit on the border of AI research and user interfaces. And we want to make these two things work together as much as possible. And one of the challenges, and my two advisors who don't get along are in both those two fields, and I tried to bridge that gap for 6 years. And I can tell you the fruits of my labor has been to try to really tell AI researchers the message that just having the goal of automating tasks is often not enough. And they're like, why? But you told me what to do, and I did. Well, very often in the real world, defining the problem is very hard. If you can exactly define the problem, then maybe a fully automated algorithm is the right thing. But really in the real world, we have some idea of the first cut of what we want. Like, oh, it maybe should remove the background. And okay, we have an algorithm that maybe helps you do that. Then a human wants to see the result and be like, oh, was that really what I wanted, or is there something else I need? So make it part of a loop where the creator can be in control and use these as tools. And that's better for everyone, particularly if the person in control has some model of what the computer is doing. If it really is in their mind a black box where it could do anything and I just have to accept it, that's not actually helpful as a tool. Imagine if your hammer did that. You hit something with the hammer and it just took whatever action it felt like. It just isn't useful. And so in continuing to have those conversations means that we have to think about how AI can be not just a fully automated thing, but a tool.
Excellent. And so I have one last question, lightning round, which is just to get your perspective on the biggest opportunities as well as challenges going forward in terms of using visual automation and AI within your specific organizations.
Right. So right now, the biggest challenge that we've been presented with very recently, and it's kind of a continuous thing, is we oftentimes the requirement is we need whatever we're doing to be 100% accurate. Yeah. So from my background, I'm used to statistical accuracy. So, it's a curve. It's 99%. It's got a confidence level. But when we're talking about brands who have built a brand on accuracy and are putting something out on broadcast, statistical accuracy is really not sufficient. They are expecting 100% accuracy. And very recently, we've worked on tools to enable that kind of thing. So in other words, we would produce the machine learning result. We would also produce a result that showed the percentage accuracy, or what we would call the normative accuracy. And then we provided tools to allow people to adjust. We didn't want them to adjust the whole thing. That was a bit of training. In other words, they wanted to adjust every single thing so it would be 100%. We were saying, that actually won't make it work better. What you need to do is provide some guideposts, human interaction, and then that will improve the accuracy to nearly 100%. Because there's a difference. Another thing we've learned over time is there is a difference between actual measured accuracy and perceptual accuracy. So what people believe as being 100% is somewhat less or somewhat different than what we would calculate. Mm-hmm. So that's been our challenge, is to use machine learning in a way that can be very, very accurate, can provide, much like everyone has said, some amount of human interaction to correct whatever flaws might be there, so that in the end it produces something that's very useful and valuable.
So my vision for images on the web is I go to Wikipedia a lot to learn things, and Wikipedia is text, which is not my favorite way to learn things. I would love for these explanations to have visual components, maybe with a little sort of GIF style animation, something simple. One of the earlier panelists was talking about a 3D augmented reality thing for doctors, where this heart surgeon didn't really have a great model until he saw the vessels, or I know nothing about medicine, the vessels actually flowing in and out of each other. Simple visualizations like that can very quickly give you a very accurate mental model, whereas text is hard. You have to translate that into something visual. There's a lot of miscommunication there. So I think that but images are really hard to create, and text is easier, particularly in a crowdsourced fashion. So if we could have like the Wikipedia of visual explanations with AI help to create them, I would like that.
We're working on it.
Awesome.
That's great. Let's see, for me, so, Sensei is up and running. Adobe stock, I think it has like 120 million assets across all asset types. I would say it would be, my goals would be mostly for what we call the premium collection, which is the highest quality, the top tier collections in the marketplace. So, aspirational assignment quality photography available in stock. And I have a global team of curators who literally look at every single image that comes into premium and either accepts it or rejects it. That's tedious. And we need those curators. They're all experts in the field. But what we're training Sensei to do, and we're not up and running yet, is what we're training it to do is to do first round, to literally recognize elements that say this is a technically strong image, this is a good composition. So we're training Sensei to do first round to get rid of the junk, and then the humans can come in and really, again, apply their aesthetic and technical expertise. So it's kind of getting rid of the bottom layer where they're spending hours and hours of their day.
For us, I think the challenge is understanding where to draw the line, where we offer automation or where the user or the creator is working on their own and creating what they envision. It's always a balance when we talk to the people using the platform of we want it faster, we want it quicker, we want it easier, but we still want all the flexibility to create that video that I'm imagining. So for us, it's, I think, finding that balance and understanding where automation can sort of step into the video production process and where it needs to take a back seat. And for opportunities, I think that something within our platform that we can do is leverage the data of all of the many, many users that we have within it to help improve the production process. So what I mean by that is video creation is very subjective, but we can see patterns in the way that people select media, the length of the videos, the soundtracks that they're using for particular types of content. So that's data that we can use to implement and to use machine learning and to help other users kind of expedite the production process.
So I think one of our biggest challenges, we know a lot of the things we want to do with AI, and I think most startups, one of the biggest challenges is just getting the data and training the models. For example, we've started doing celebrity detection so that if somebody searches for Beyonce, we can really find all the GIFs that Beyonce's in. But that's tricky unless somebody sits there and tags everything. And we have enough pictures of every celebrity that we're interested in. So that's really one of our biggest challenges, aside from what other folks mentioned. And then we have a lot of exciting stuff we'd like to build with automated creation. For example, we've thought a little bit, not about Wikipedia, I like this idea, but we have thought about sort of news summaries, that sort of thing. Can we, instead of having a headline, can we have a little GIF headline? And I think there's going to be a lot of total automation there, but with a human probably checking it. And also, we're interested in, we have a lot of duplicates in our library. Random users upload the same thing multiple times. We don't know what's going to be popular. We kind of have to put it into our system and wait for people to click. And if they click a lot, then we move it up in the search results. That's a challenge because, number one, it might take time for something really great to come to the top. And number two, people can be really horrible. So what I mean by that is that we might have an innocuous search and people will, click on some random thing might come in there. Like for a while our search for, if you search for girls, you get a lot of very sort of sexy pictures. Which is not really what most people are looking for, but enough people were looking for it, and they'd scroll to the bottom until they saw something sexy and they clicked on it. So we have to think about that as well. It would be interesting to train our data early on. Oh, this is probably going to be a good GIF or not, just based on that coming in.
Excellent. So I think we have time for about 1 or 2 questions. So we'll open up. Any volunteers?
Hi, I was just curious how you discovered the Turkish flag issue. Yeah, assuming that it wasn't because there were riots between the Greeks and Cypriots in Turkey.
I actually don't know how it came up. I don't know if it was reported by a user, which I don't think it was. I think we found it, but I'm actually not sure. Sorry.
There's a question behind you.
Thank you. This one maybe leans a little bit towards Bill and Bjorn, but in terms of whether AI is sort of a broad term, but whether you guys are doing NLP, computer vision, personalization, are you guys looking at APIs and building on top of those? Are you going to smaller companies that are experts in certain specialities? What's sort of the approach there?
So it depends. We're doing, I would say, in a sense, we're doing all of those. We sort of break things down into what we would call we have prototype work, and the prototype work tends to use what we'll try to say the most advanced technologies. And so you're probably going to hear from VidRover. That's one of the companies presenting. They do some really advanced stuff. We've been using them for advanced computer vision. The NLP work, we've done mostly in-house. We hired an expert, and that person has bootstrapped the process. So we're able to do a lot of the NLP work internally and adjust it to a way that's more appropriate for our business and for our brands. But as I said, we're also working with many different vendors to assess capabilities. There's folks in our lab whose job it is to understand the landscape and provide test cases and results back not only internally to our lab, but also to the entire NBC set of brands to be able to understand where things might fit in for a particular brand.
And yeah, we also, all of the above. I know we definitely use Google Cloud Vision. That's a great tool. We use that to get a lot of data about our images. It can tell us if there's a dog in the image, and there's no way we're going to train. We just don't have the capability to train that kind of with that kind of breadth. And we also have stuff in-house. The celebrity detection I mentioned is an in-house tool. And I don't think we've currently engaged with any smaller startups on this kind of work. But we definitely are talking to them about things like image segmentation.
All right, so that's the time we have for this afternoon. Thank you to the panelists and to the audience. Thank you, Francesco.